Over the past 5 years, American homeownership transformed into something nearly mythical. Houses weren't just appreciating, they were shooting up in value at speeds that defied logic. Sellers called every shot. Bidding wars erupted on properties before they even hit the market. Buyers waived inspections, paid tens of thousands over asking, and wrote heartfelt letters begging sellers to accept their offers. It felt like the gold rush all over again, and anyone holding property seemed invincible. But 2026 has rewritten that entire playbook. The leverage sellers once wielded so confidently is crumbling. Markets that were flooded with desperate buyers just months ago are now sitting eerily quiet, dotted with price cuts and homes lingering unsold for weeks. For the first time in over a decade, sellers aren't just feeling pressure, they're panicking. Interest rates climbed higher than most predicted. Inflation refused to ease, and the buyers everyone counted on have simply stopped showing up. In certain cities, home prices are nosediving by double digits. Open houses that used to draw crowds now see maybe one or two visitors if they're lucky. Sellers are slashing prices, offering seller credits, and even throwing in furniture just to close deals. The power dynamic that shaped real estate through the pandemic era is flipping hard, and the cities hit hardest are watching their housing markets unravel in real time. Today, we're breaking down the top 9 U.S. cities where home prices are absolutely plummeting and sellers are growing more desperate by the day in 2026. Stick around for number 1 because what's happening there could set the tone for housing nationwide. And if you want to stay ahead of the biggest shifts shaping American real estate, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Let's dive in. Number 9. Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte spent years being hailed as the next great American boomtown. Banking jobs poured in. Young professionals followed close behind. Developers scrambled to keep pace, building subdivisions across Mecklenburg County and beyond. The city's reputation as an affordable, business-friendly hub drew waves of transplants from the Northeast and Midwest, all chasing lower costs and sunnier skies. For a while, Charlotte seemed unstoppable. Homes sold within days. Builders couldn't put up houses fast enough, and homeowners watched their property values soar year after year. But in 2026, that momentum has slammed into reverse. Home prices have dropped roughly 11% over the past year, and inventory is piling up faster than anyone expected. Subdivisions in areas like Ballantyne, Huntersville, and Matthews are filled with listings that have been sitting for months. Sellers who bought at peak prices are stuck between holding out for better offers or cutting losses and moving on. The issue isn't just one factor, it's a perfect storm. Interest rates hovering near 7% have crushed buyer demand. The banking sector, Charlotte's economic backbone, has slowed hiring dramatically. Layoffs at major institutions have sent ripples through the housing market, removing thousands of potential buyers who would have fueled continued growth. On top of that, builders kept constructing through the slowdown, adding thousands of new homes to a market that no longer has the appetite to absorb them. Brand new developments that were supposed to sell out are now offering steep discounts just to move inventory. Builders are cutting prices by $30,000, $40,000, sometimes more, and even then, buyers are hesitating. The suburban dream that Charlotte sold so effectively is starting to feel overpriced and oversaturated. Sellers are getting creative, offering to buy down interest rates, cover closing costs, or include home warranties. But even with those incentives, many homes are sitting untouched. Open houses that used to feel like auctions now echo with silence. Real estate agents who thrived during the boom are scrambling to adjust their strategies, and some are quietly leaving the industry altogether. Number 8. Denver, Colorado. Denver's housing story was one of relentless growth. For years, the city attracted outdoor enthusiasts, tech workers, and young families drawn by mountain views and a thriving job market. Home prices climbed steadily, then rapidly, reaching levels that once seemed unthinkable for a mid-sized Mountain West city. Sellers grew accustomed to multiple offers and quick closings. The market felt bulletproof. But 2026 has shattered that illusion entirely. Home prices across the Denver metro have fallen about 10%, with some neighborhoods seeing declines closer to 13%. Inventory has surged as sellers who held off listing during the chaos finally decide to cash out, only to find a market that's gone cold. Areas like Highlands, Park Hill, and Stapleton are flooded with for sale signs. Homes that would have sparked bidding wars 2 years ago are now sitting for 60, 70, even 90 days without a single offer. Price reductions have become routine. Sellers are dropping asking prices every few weeks, hoping to catch the eye of the few remaining buyers still in the market. The reasons behind Denver's downturn are layered. Interest rates have priced out a massive segment of buyers, particularly first-timers who fueled much of the market's growth. Tech layoffs at companies across the metro have removed high-earning professionals from the buyer pool. And perhaps most significantly, Denver's cost of living has finally pushed people away. The affordability that once made the city attractive has evaporated. Property taxes have surged, insurance premiums are climbing, and everyday expenses, from groceries to utilities, have left residents stretched thinner than ever. Many people who moved to Denver during the boom are now reconsidering. Some are relocating to smaller cities in Montana, Idaho, or even leaving Colorado altogether. The outward migration isn't massive, but it's steady enough to weaken demand and leave sellers stranded. Builders are also feeling the pinch. New construction projects that broke ground during the height of optimism are now completing into a market with no buyers waiting. Developers are slashing prices on brand new homes, undercutting existing listings, and adding even more pressure to sellers already struggling. Luxury properties in the foothills and closer to downtown are taking some of the hardest hits. Homes priced above $800,000 are moving at a glacial pace, if at all. Sellers are offering furniture packages, landscaping upgrades, even prepaid HOA fees, but buyers remain cautious. Number 7. Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville rode an incredible wave over the past decade. Music City transformed into a magnet for corporate relocations, remote workers, and retirees seeking lower taxes and warmer weather. Cranes filled the skyline. Luxury condos sprouted downtown. Suburban sprawl pushed further into surrounding counties. Home prices climbed relentlessly, and for years, sellers enjoyed a market where nearly every property sold above asking. But 2026 has brought a harsh correction. Prices have tumbled roughly 12% year over year, and homes that used to disappear in days are now lingering on the market for months. Neighborhoods in Franklin, Brentwood, and East Nashville are seeing price cuts pile up as sellers desperately try to attract buyers. The energy that once defined Nashville's housing boom has drained away, replaced by uncertainty and frustration. Part of the problem is oversupply. Developers built aggressively, convinced the influx of new residents would never slow, but it did. Migration from California, New York, and other high-cost states has cooled significantly. Remote work, once the driving force behind Nashville's growth, is no longer the universal option it was during the pandemic. Companies are calling employees back to offices, and many who moved to Nashville for lifestyle reasons are now facing pressure to return to their original cities. At the same time, interest rates have gutted buyer demand. The affordability that made Nashville attractive in the first place has evaporated. Homes that seemed like bargains at $400,000 now feel overpriced at $350,000, especially as buyers factor in higher borrowing costs. Property taxes have also spiked, adding another layer of financial strain for potential owners. Sellers are responding with every trick in the book. They're offering seller credits, paying for inspections, covering repairs up front, and even including appliances and furniture. But even with those concessions, many listings sit untouched. Open houses are sparsely attended. Showings are few and far between, and the few offers that do come in are lowball attempts that leave sellers insulted and stuck. The luxury market has been hit especially hard. High-end homes in Williamson County and along the Cumberland River are taking months to sell, if they sell at all. Number 6. Tampa, Florida. Tampa's rise during the pandemic was nothing short of explosive. The metro became a hotspot for remote workers fleeing the cold and high taxes of the Northeast. Builders raced to meet demand, constructing entire communities seemingly overnight. Home prices doubled in some areas, and sellers enjoyed one of the strongest markets in the country. But by 2026, that strength has turned to fragility. Home prices have fallen about 13% in the past year, and the market is flooded with inventory that simply won't move. Subdivisions in places like Wesley Chapel, Riverview, and New Tampa are lined with for sale signs. Homes sit for months without a single offer, Sellers are slashing prices, sometimes by $50,000 or more, just to generate interest. The shift has been jarring for homeowners who expected values to keep climbing indefinitely. Now they're stuck, unable to sell without taking significant losses, and unable to refinance due to higher interest rates. The reasons behind Tampa's downturn are both local and systemic. Insurance costs have skyrocketed, driven by hurricanes and Florida's ongoing property insurance crisis. Premiums that used to run $2,000 a year are now hitting $6,000, $7,000, even more for homes near the coast. That added expense has made homeownership far less attractive, especially for buyers stretching their budgets. Interest rates have compounded the problem. Monthly payments that seemed manageable at 3% are now crushing at 7%. Buyers who could afford a $400,000 home 2 years ago are now priced out entirely. And the migration wave that fueled Tampa's boom has slowed dramatically. Remote work mandates are fading, and many who moved to Florida are now facing the reality of living in a state with intense heat, hurricane risk, and rising costs. Builders are also feeling the pain. New developments that were supposed to sell out are sitting half empty. Spec homes are piling up, forcing builders to offer incentives like paid closing costs, rate buy-downs, and even price cuts that undercut existing sellers. The competition between new construction and resale homes has turned vicious, leaving everyone worse off. Luxury waterfront properties, once the crown jewels of Tampa's market, are taking some of the hardest hits. Homes priced above $1 million are languishing. Number 5. Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City spent years as one of the hottest housing markets in the nation. Tech companies expanded into the area. Outdoor recreation drew young professionals, and the state's pro-business climate kept transplants flowing in steadily. Home prices surged, inventory vanished, and sellers enjoyed a market where nearly every listing sparked a bidding war. But in 2026, that momentum has completely reversed. Prices have dropped about 11% over the past year, and inventory has swelled to levels not seen in more than a decade. Homes in neighborhoods like Sugar House, Draper, and Cottonwood Heights are sitting on the market for months. Sellers are cutting prices repeatedly, trying to attract buyers who have largely stopped looking. The shift has been abrupt and disorienting. Just 2 years ago, sellers could name their price and expect multiple offers within 24 hours. Now they're begging for a single showing. The factors driving Salt Lake's decline are both national and regional. Interest rates have crushed affordability. The migration surge from California and other high-cost states has slowed dramatically, and the tech sector, which fueled much of the growth, has contracted sharply. Layoffs at companies across the Wasatch Front have removed thousands of high-income buyers from the market. At the same time, builders kept constructing through the slowdown, adding thousands of new homes to an already saturated market. New developments are offering steep incentives, undercutting resale listings and adding pressure to sellers already struggling. The competition has turned desperate, with builders and existing homeowners racing to the bottom on price. Property taxes have also surged, making homeownership more expensive even as home values fall. Combined with rising insurance costs and higher utility bills, the total cost of owning a home in Salt Lake has climbed significantly, even as prices drop. That paradox is keeping many potential buyers on the sidelines, waiting for better opportunities, or simply choosing to rent. Luxury homes near the ski resorts and in the foothills are taking particularly hard hits. Properties priced above $700,000 are moving at a snail's pace. Number 4. Austin, Texas. Austin's fall from grace has been one of the most dramatic in the nation. The city that crowned itself the next Silicon Valley, that lured tech giants and startups alike, is now facing a housing market in freefall. Prices have plummeted roughly 14% over the past year, with some neighborhoods seeing drops closer to 17%. Homes that sold for $600,000 in 2023 are now struggling to find buyers at $500,000. Sellers are slashing prices, offering credits, and throwing in everything they can think of, but the market remains stubbornly stagnant. The tech boom that fueled Austin's rise has turned into a bust. Layoffs at Tesla, Oracle, and countless startups have gutted the buyer pool. The high-income renters and buyers who flooded into the city during the pandemic are now leaving, either forced out by job losses or choosing cheaper alternatives. The migration wave that seemed unstoppable has reversed, leaving Austin with an oversupply of homes and a dwindling pool of buyers. Builders compounded the problem by continuing to construct through the slowdown. New subdivisions in areas like Pflugerville, Round Rock, and Leander are filled with unsold homes. Spec houses sit empty, representing millions in sunk costs for developers who bet on demand that never materialized. The competition between new construction and resale homes has turned brutal, with everyone cutting prices in a desperate race to the bottom. Interest rates have made the situation even worse. Monthly payments that seemed manageable at 3% are now crushing at 7%. Buyers who could afford Austin's inflated prices during the boom are now completely priced out. And even those who can afford to buy are hesitating, unwilling to commit in a market that shows no signs of stabilizing. Property taxes in Austin have also surged, adding thousands of dollars annually to the cost of home ownership. Combined with rising insurance and utility costs, the total expense of owning a home has climbed even as values fall. That reality is keeping potential buyers cautious and leaving sellers frustrated. Luxury homes in West Austin and the Hill Country are experiencing some of the steepest declines. Properties priced above $1 million are sitting for months, often without a single offer. Sellers are offering rate buy-downs, furniture packages, even cash incentives, but buyers remain unconvinced. Number 3. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix's housing correction is unfolding with a speed that has left sellers reeling. Prices have dropped about 13% over the past year, and inventory has exploded. Subdivisions across the valley from Chandler to Surprise are flooded with listings that have been sitting for months. Sellers are cutting prices by tens of thousands of dollars, offering concessions, and even buying down interest rates. But buyers remain scarce. The market that once felt invincible has crumbled almost overnight. The reasons are both systemic and local. Interest rates have destroyed affordability. The migration wave from California that fueled Phoenix's growth has slowed to a trickle, and the job market, once a pillar of strength, has softened considerably. Tech layoffs and slowdowns in construction and retail have removed thousands of potential buyers from the market, leaving sellers with no one to sell to. Builders made the situation worse by overshooting demand. Thousands of new homes were completed in 2025 and early 2026, flooding a market that was already saturated. New developments are now offering massive incentives, undercutting resale listings and creating a vicious cycle of falling prices. Sellers who bought at peak prices are trapped, unable to sell without taking significant losses, and unable to refinance due to higher rates. Insurance costs have also surged, driven by extreme heat and increasing claims. Premiums that used to cost $2,200 a year are now hitting $3,000 or more, adding another layer of expense that makes homeownership less attractive. Combined with rising property taxes and utility bills, the total cost of owning a home in Phoenix has climbed sharply, even as values fall. Luxury homes in Scottsdale and Paradise Valley are experiencing some of the most dramatic declines. Properties priced above $800,000 are sitting for months, often without a single showing. Number 2. Boise, Idaho. Boise's collapse has been swift and severe. The city that became the unlikely star of the pandemic housing boom is now experiencing one of the sharpest corrections in the nation. Home prices have plummeted roughly 15% over the past year, with some neighborhoods seeing declines closer to 18%. Homes that sold for $500,000 in 2023 are now struggling to find buyers at $420,000. Sellers are desperate, slashing prices repeatedly and offering every concession imaginable, but the market remains frozen. The boom that put Boise on the map was fueled by remote workers fleeing expensive coastal cities. Tech employees from San Francisco, Seattle, and Portland flooded in, driving prices to levels that shocked longtime residents. Builders scrambled to keep up, constructing thousands of homes across the Treasure Valley. For a while, it seemed like the growth would never stop, but it did, and the reversal has been brutal. Remote work mandates have faded, and many of the transplants who drove Boise's boom have returned to their original cities. The out-of-state buyers who were willing to pay any price are gone, leaving a market built for high incomes with only local wages to support it. Teachers, nurses, and service workers who form the core of Boise's workforce were priced out during the boom, and they still can't afford the inflated prices. Interest rates have made the situation even worse. Monthly payments that seemed reasonable at 3% are now unaffordable at 7%. Buyers who could stretch to $450,000 2 years ago are now capped at $350,000 or less. The result is a market with plenty of inventory and almost no buyers. Builders are feeling the pain acutely. New developments that were supposed to sell out are sitting half empty. Spec homes are piling up and builders are slashing prices to move inventory before they drown in carrying costs. The competition between new construction and resale homes has turned vicious, with everyone racing to the bottom on price. Property taxes have also surged, adding thousands of dollars annually to the cost of home ownership. Combined with rising insurance and utility costs, the total expense of owning a home in Boise has climbed significantly, even as values fall. That paradox is keeping buyers cautious and leaving sellers stranded. Luxury homes in the Boise foothills and North End are experiencing some of the steepest declines. Properties priced above $600,000 are sitting for months without a single offer. Sellers are offering rate buy-downs, furniture packages, even cash back at closing, but buyers remain unconvinced. Number 1. Las Vegas, Nevada. At the top of the list, the city where the house always wins is now the place where sellers are losing big. Las Vegas is experiencing a housing market collapse that feels like an echo of 2008, but with a distinctly modern twist. Home prices have dropped about 16% over the past year, and in some neighborhoods the declines have been even steeper. Homes that sold for $450,000 in early 2024 are now listed at $380,000 and still not moving. Sellers are slashing prices every few weeks, offering massive concessions, and in some cases, simply walking away from properties they can no longer afford to carry. The factors driving Las Vegas's freefall are numerous and interconnected. Interest rates have destroyed affordability. The migration wave that fueled growth during the pandemic has reversed, and the city's reliance on tourism and hospitality, industries that still haven't fully recovered, has left the local economy fragile. Job growth has stalled, wages remain stagnant, and many of the buyers who drove demand during the boom have simply disappeared. Builders made the problem worse by continuing to construct through the slowdown. Thousands of new homes have flooded the market, adding to an already overwhelming supply. New developments are offering incentives that resale sellers simply can't match: paid closing costs, rate buy-downs, even cash back at closing. The competition has turned desperate, and prices are spiraling downward as everyone fights for the few remaining buyers. Investors who bought during the boom are also feeling intense pressure. Many purchased homes expecting to flip them quickly or convert them into short-term rentals, but the Airbnb market has collapsed as tourism softened and regulations tightened. Investors are now dumping properties onto the long-term market, adding even more inventory and driving prices down further. Property taxes and insurance costs have surged, making homeownership more expensive even as values fall. Combined with higher HOA fees and utility bills, the total cost of owning a home in Las Vegas has climbed sharply. That reality is keeping potential buyers on the sidelines, waiting for prices to fall further or choosing to rent instead. Luxury homes on the outskirts of the city and in gated communities are experiencing some of the most dramatic declines. Properties priced above $700,000 are sitting for months without a single showing. Sellers are offering everything from furniture packages to landscaping upgrades, but buyers remain cautious. The fear of catching a falling knife has gripped the market entirely. Real estate agents are struggling to survive. Listings are stale, commissions have dried up, and the competitive energy that once defined the market has been replaced by desperation. Some agents are leaving the industry, unable to make ends meet in a market this slow. And across the nation, a broader shift is taking shape. For the first time in over a decade, sellers are the ones feeling desperate. The era of instant offers, bidding wars, and relentless price increases is giving way to price cuts, empty open houses, and homes that sit unsold for months. The power dynamic that defined American real estate through the pandemic is reversing, and the consequences are rippling through every corner of the market. Some cities will stabilize. Others will continue falling. But the lesson is clear. No housing market can outrun reality forever. Growth built on speculation, cheap money, and unrealistic expectations eventually collapses under its own weight. The numbers don't lie, and right now, they're telling a story of correction, caution, and a market searching for solid ground. If this breakdown gave you a new perspective on where American housing is headed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Share this video with anyone trying to navigate this chaotic market, because understanding what's happening now could shape the decisions that define the next decade. The housing story isn't over. It's just entering a new chapter.